The head of Germany's intelligence agency says North Korea has used its embassy in Berlin to acquire equipment for its missile and nuclear programs, despite increased international sanctions against Pyongyang. The intelligence chief told Germany's NDR television in a program to be aired on Monday that it is necessary to presume that the parts for North Korea's weapons program were acquired from markets and underground buyers in Germany. The official added that the goods can be used for both civilian and military purposes, and that authorities have been preventing such activities whenever they detect them, but said that the agency cannot guarantee that all cases can be detected and stopped.
North Korea will be sending its ceremonial head of state, Kim Yong-nam, to South Korea on Friday. He will lead a high-level delegation to the Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Olympics. In the morning, the advance team for North Korea's art troupe entered South Korea to prepare for the North's cultural events. Our Ji Myung-gil has more.
Kim Yong-nam, North Korea's ceremonial head of state, will lead a 22-member delegation to South Korea for a 3-day visit beginning this Friday. Kim, who is the head of parliament in North Korea, will attend the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics opening ceremony, which will also be attended by US Vice President Mike Pence. South Korea's Unification Ministry said Kim will lead a delegation of 3 other government officials and 18 support staff. He will be the highest-level official to visit the South in 4 years. While in the South, the North delegation will likely attend the United Korean women's ice hockey team's match this Saturday and even possibly meet with South Korean President Moon Jae-in. South Korea's Blue House welcomed the visit of North Korea's high-level delegation led by Kim Yong-nam. The Blue House spokesperson stressed the trip reflects North Korea's sincere efforts to improve inter-Korean relationships and to make the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics a success. The North's participation in the Games is widely seen as a diplomatic maneuver by Pyongyang as it faces growing international pressure and sanctions over its nuclear and missile programs. In preparation for the North's cultural events, a 23-member advance team arrived in the South using the Western land route on Monday morning. The members are a working group to prepare for the concerts that will be held this Thursday in the Olympic host city of Gangneung and in Seoul this coming Sunday. The group brought musical instruments and other equipment necessary for the performances. On Tuesday, the leader of the Samjin Orchestra, Hyun Song-eul, will lead the rest of the 140-member art troupe into South Korea by Mangyongbong 92 ferry, using the eastern coastal route. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
And on the other side of the world, North Korea firing back at President Trump, slamming his State of the Union address. A foreign ministry official today responding to the president's speech, saying North Korea's nuclear capabilities will, quote, completely deter Trump and his lackeys from showing off on the Korean peninsula. Well, the statement comes as President Trump tries to increase pressure on Pyongyang over its nuclear program. The president meeting with defectors from the country on Friday at the White House to highlight the North's human rights abuses. For more on this, we're joined by Ambassador John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, a Fox News contributor and chairman of the Gatestone Institute here in New York. Ambassador, lackeys showing off on the Korean peninsula. In their, the only way the North Koreans can frame it could be referring to Vice President Pence, who will be attending the Olympics there later this week and represent our government at the opening ceremonies.
I just love North Korean propaganda. It never fails to get a laugh from people. But look, this is the real face of North Korea. This is the regime that's very, very close to getting deliverable nuclear weapons. And I think that it was interesting that they used the term deter America, their nuclear capability. So I think they're kind of puffing themselves up here. I think they are worried about a U.S. preemptive strike against their nuclear program. Not that I have any evidence that's about to happen, that's for sure. But I think they're trying to imply if we strike them, they'll hit us with nuclear weapons. They don't have that capability at the moment. I think it shows actually they're nervous. and that what they really want to do is back us off. So Vice President Pence, as you mentioned, will be going for the opening ceremony. It's an important assignment. He's not just there to watch the ceremony. He'll be meeting with South Korean President Moon, be going up to the DMZ. So this is a significant time for him to be there.
Is going to the DMZ a reminder, or is it a poke in the eye of Kim Jong-un?
Well, I think it's important that presidents and vice presidents go up there. I think it reaffirms our support for the South Korean alliance. And I think it's a mark that we see through the North Korean propaganda. Maybe other people around the world are oohing and eyeing because the North Korean and South Korean female ice hockey stars are going to play as one team. This whole thing is blue smoke and mirrors. It's an effort to divert our attention from their continuing progress on nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles.
Yeah, and the North Korean singer is being paraded around like Madonna or Lady Gaga, but with North Korean security. Meanwhile, the symbolism of the President of the United States meeting with North Korean defectors. We saw that during the State of the Union, that the marvelous, just amazing, tear-in-the-eye, inspiring image of Jae Sung-ho when he raised his crutches, the crutches really of freedom. He was hit by a train as he fled North Korea. Tell me about the meaning of that.
Well, I think that's a direct message both to the North Korean regime and to China. You know, these refugees go through hell, really, to living in North Korea and then getting out, trying to escape through China, often aided by Christian churches as they're passed down to Southeast Asia, exploited, especially the women. It's a tale of great heroism. So when they get out and they talk to the South Korean authorities, this visit with President Trump, I think, is a real signal to the people inside North Korea that the United States knows the fate that they're suffering and that we have their best interest at heart. I think it's very similar to some of the things that President Reagan did during the Cold War that inspired the prisoners in the Soviet Gulag. So this is really, I think, as well for China to understand how strongly this administration feels about the threat that the North Korean regime poses.
And apparently some of the defectors, if they get to China and are captured, they get repatriated back to North Korea, and they get executed publicly, we're told.
Yeah, look, it's very risky to try and escape, and that's why the heroism that they display is so important. It's so important to recognize it. Look, I don't think we can blink the reality here. North Korea is getting ever closer to deliverable nuclear weapons, barring some dramatic action by China, which is an increasingly fading hope, I think, at this point. We're coming down to the decision either to accept nuclear weapons in the hands of this very bizarre regime, or consider the use of military force. These are not happy choices, but we're running out of options.
Wouldn't military force, though, wouldn't that choice be catastrophic, considering the millions who could be killed potentially in South Korea, with Seoul 35 miles from the DMZ?
Consider the millions of Americans who could be killed by this bizarre regime led by a man who had assassins kill his own half-brother with VX gas in a Malaysian airport. You know, this regime may be rational, but it's rational in its own strange world. And having them with that capability and the ability to sell it to others, I think we're going to have a debate on this. Are we going to accept that, or do we find it unacceptable? Now, I take the word unacceptable to mean we will not accept it. That's the issue we're coming to.
You know, you mentioned President Reagan meeting with the dissidents. He met in 1988 with dissidents in Moscow during a visit. And he said this, quote, "I have to believe that the history of this troubled century will indeed be redeemed in the eyes of God and man, and that freedom will truly come to all." And do you believe that potentially one day could include North Korea?
Well, I think it certainly could include North Korea. South Korea has proven it can function as a democratic society. And I think that's why the ideal goal here ought to be to convince China to let us reunify the Korean peninsula, essentially having the North absorbed by the South. It would be better for the Korean people. It would certainly be better for us to have the North Korean regime disappear.
Whenever they detect them, but said that the agency cannot guarantee that all cases can be detected and stopped. necessary to presume that the parts for North Korea's weapons program were acquired from markets and underground buyers in Germany. The official added that the goods can be used for both civilian and military purposes, and that authorities have been preventing such activity.
North Korea will be sending its ceremonial head of state, Kim Nam, to South Korea on Friday. He will lead a high-level delegation to the Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Olympics. In the morning, the advance team for North Korea's art troupe entered South Korea to prepare for the North's cultural event.
The head of Germany's intelligence agency says North Korea has used its embassy in Berlin to acquire equipment for its missile and nuclear programs, despite increased international sanctions against Pyongyang. The intelligence chief told Germany's NDR television in a program to be aired on Monday that it is